often between religious figures and atheists or agnostics. They've done creationists versus evolution scientists. They've done just about everybody in the world versus flat earthers.
That's kind of a non sequitur.
Hence the name of the channel.
Yes, even the announcement of being on a non sequitur is a non sequitur. I love it.
And they've also done non-religious topics like gun control, free speech, big versus small government, things of that nature. But they're a really neat show. I've been a fan of them for a long time. I particularly like, and you can see this. They've hosted some colorful figures, to put it politely.
Oh, they haven't hosted me yet.
But they actually do so very respectfully and very openly, including a few people I'd hang up on, to be completely honest.
Oh, boy.
It's like, yeah, I'd hang up on that person very quickly.
Y'all may want to actually watch this in action. I want to see Kevin sweat.
I don't think I'll sweat.
Less.
Like, again, they're usually very respectful. And you've seen me on air with Atheist. You were with me on an Atheist show once before.
Yes.
I didn't sweat at all.
I know. I wanted to see you sweat less.
Thanks.
You're welcome. What can I say? It's a Christmas miracle. See, I'm back.
So I think the next obvious segue, though, before we get into our topic, is, of course, Audible.
Oh, yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like to read, and if you don't, why not? Audible is a really good option, especially if you're like us and you don't have a lot of spare time. You know, Audible is this collection of audiobooks. It's $15 a month for a one book a month subscription. But if you go to the link in the description, which is audibletrial.com/paranormale, audibletrial.com/paranormale, you can get a free 1 month membership. And let's just just hold on tight a second so we can finish the ad, and then we'll have you on the air. Okay.
I'll be right with you.
Just be with you in 1 second. Just doing the advertisement, and then we'll be happy to have you on, caller. Okay? Hello? Okay, the caller hung up.
Wrong number.
Or who knows? Or maybe they'll call back.
Maybe.
But point being, it has literally, so use the audibletrial.com/paranormale. You get a free 1 month membership. You get a free audiobook with it. If you cancel your membership, you keep the audiobook. There are literally thousands of options on there. All of Brian McKinley's excellent vampire novels, Ancient Enemy, Ancient Blood, and Drawing Dead are all on there.
Awesome.
Dacre's books, both Dracul, the prequel to Dracula, and Dracula the Undead, the sequel to Dracula, are both on there.
As well as Dracula itself.
And Dracula itself, of course.
Yay.
Anne Rice's books are all on there. You're going to say it, so I might as well.
Yes.
In relation to our topic a couple of weeks back, probably the greatest book about the end of the world ever written, Good Omens, is on there. It's an enormous amount of fun. It's a great website. There are tons of books.
As well as reference materials.
Yeah,
too.
I was about to say fiction and nonfiction. You will find something on there for whatever you're looking for.
I very strongly recommend it.
Yes. Yeah. My fiance and I just bought a whole bunch of new audiobooks off.
Nice.
Just because there's so many books, so little time.
Yeah, it tends to be a bit of a daunting task when you've got a stack in front of you.
Currently, select audiobooks are 2 for 1 credit.
Oh, and if you decide to, I don't know if it'll count for your free credit, although it might, because you get a free credit for using the link. But at the moment, select audiobooks, you get 2 books for 1 credit, so basically it's a 2 for 1.
Yeah. See,
All the
that's
more
a deal.
reason to sign up now.
There you go. So
tonight's topic.
Yes.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about, looking at the two gospels that have the story of the birth of Christ are Matthew and Luke.
Not John Paul or Ringo.
Han
You
and
knew it
Luke.
was coming.
Yeah.
Han and Luke.
Yeah, there you go.
But there are similarities between the two. There are differences. One of the big differences is that the two have genealogies. Chapter 1 of Luke has a genealogy of Jesus. Chapter 3 of Matthew has a genealogy of Jesus.
That's the flood of begatting, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, good God.
The good news is I am not going to subject my listening audience to 17 verses of so and so begat so and so begat so and so.
Stop.
They're let's face it. I don't care how devout a Christian you are. Listening to the genealogies is not exciting.
Nope. The longest part of the entire New Testament, actually, the longest string of consciousness in the New Testament is, I do believe, the whole begat torrent.
Well, the worst would be the book of Numbers in the Old Testament, which mostly is genealogy.
Isn't that where math came from? The
A
book
little
of
older
Numbers.
than that.
Just as bad.
But there is one interesting thing I did want to mention about genealogies that a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of. And so I'm going to quote one verse from the genealogy of Luke, and only one, which is Luke 1:11, and this is from the King James, which reads, "And Josiah begat Jeconias and his brethren about the time they were carried away to Babylon." Now, here's why I'm bringing this up and what makes it interesting. Jeconiah, the one that's talking about here, was a king of Jerusalem.
Jackie boy.
Specifically, he was the king of Jerusalem when the Babylonians came in and took over.
Damn those Babylonians.
And he was taken into captivity. Now, if you are to go to Jeremiah 22:28-30,
Is that the bullfrog chapter?
oh, good Lord, this
You're
is
welcome.
going to be painful.
Yes. You go painful with biblical, I go painful with puns.
So, God actually curses the whole bloodline of Jeconiah. That none of them will ever again sit on the throne of Israel. Jeremiah 22:30. This is what the Lord said: "Record this man as if childless, a man who will not prosper in his lifetime. None of his offspring will prosper. None will sit on the throne of David or rule anymore in Judah."
It sounds very condemning, too. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Needless to say.
And this leads to one of the biggest problems, because people wonder, okay, why is Christianity and Judaism a different thing? Mostly Christians wonder this, and some non-Christians. Judaism undeniably believes the Messiah is coming. It's a major part of their faith. But there is a debate there of, well, why do Jews believe Jesus doesn't qualify? One of the biggest reasons is the Messiah has to be born of the blood of David. It gives the part of Messiah is believed in Judaism to be a political part. He is the ruler, the king of the Jews. This jumps in at the end of Jesus' life when he's executed as Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews.
Shortest inauguration ever.
Yeah. If you look at the top of a crucifix, the one that, and if anyone doesn't know, the difference between a cross and a crucifix is the crucifix is the one that has Jesus on it. But the INRI, that's Latin. I for Jesus, N for Nazareth, R for Rex, which is king, and Judaeus. Because again, in Latin, particularly in Latin at the time period, there is no J.
There's only I. Thank you, Indiana Jones.
Yep, one of the things Indiana Jones did get right, as opposed to the number of things he got wrong.
Well,
But so the Messiah has to be able to sit on this throne, or he doesn't qualify. Under Jewish tradition, he doesn't qualify. Now, Joseph and his entire bloodline was cursed to never sit on the throne. This is where Christians the Christians that are aware of this generally believe the reason for the virgin birth comes in, because Mary is also believed to have been of the blood of the house of David.
right.
So by being born of Mary without being born of Joseph, he's born of royal blood.
Right.
There's a flaw here as well, insofar as in Judaism, if your mother was Jewish, you're Jewish. If your father was a Gentile, you're not Jewish. You have to convert.
Go figure.
But like most cultures throughout history, in Judaism, if daddy was a king, you're a prince, and you're going to inherit the throne. If mommy was a queen, was a descendant of the king, and daddy was not, you can't inherit the throne.
Daddy was a carpenter.
Yeah, dad dad of adoption essentially was of the right bloodline, but he doesn't have the blood of David by Jewish terms. He doesn't. Yes, Christians say he's the son of God, but technically speaking, he doesn't fit the prophecy because the prophecy says he has to be the blood of David, and to qualify as the blood of David, he has to be born of a son of David.
Understood.
It's just an interest. I'm not going to even begin to try and reconcile this mess.
It's a twist and a half. I mean,
Yeah.
all things considered, whenever it comes to any kind of genealogy, with the exception of the gene behind the console at the moment, you always have
The study of the gene behind the console.
Yes, the study of gene behind the console. Look, it'll be shaking his head a little bit. He's like, oh gosh. Whenever we're dealing with any kind of any kind of contestation behind the throne, as it were, there's always going to be some sort of technicality, loophole, twist that someone is going to find. And I guarantee you, during the time when Christ was walking, you had a lot of the folks that were in charge that didn't necessarily like the fact that they were going to be giving up a little bit of their power. So naturally, they were like, wait, loophole. That's what it is. He ain't of the blood of David, therefore he can't be the Messiah. That is more likely an argument that those that would contest Christ's divinity in one way or the other, or
Like
right
mainline
to the
Judaism.
throne. Yeah,
Yeah.
mainline Judaism. I don't want to necessarily offend, belittle, and or demean a particular faith one way or the other. I'll do that to Kevin all day long. But I do try and look at it from all sides. Now, technicalities can lead to prosperation. Is the best way to put it? You know, while at the same time, ignoring can lead to ruin and devastation. Now, let's play me advocate here. Let's say first, he wasn't the Messiah, as it were, but in fact, one is coming. Would it be that winter is coming? Christ
I
came
still-
in winter.
I still haven't actually seen any Game of Thrones ever.
This is the ultimate Game of Thrones. We were just talking about Joe the Carpenter on the throne. We had a Joe the Plumber not too long ago. Now we got Joe the Carpenter that can't sit on a throne. I mean, come on. It's awesome. Come on, Brian, chime in. You're about to say something. I know it.
You
I'm just still stunned about the Game of Thrones thing. You really need to see Game of Thrones.
Yes, you do.
that and a million other things.
Put it on the list.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in all seriousness, you have intrigue, you have consistent, I guess you could call it collaborative efforts in order to be able to limit the power of one that is rising, as it were. And I have half a mind to say that perhaps the wording in and of itself was manipulated at the time, not originally, specifically to deny him divinity or messianic power. Because think about it, the scriptures back then, they were constantly changing, left and right. There was
Constantly
always
is an
like
unfair
there was always like a little strikeout here or there was some slight modification of a word. I
Well,
mean,
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but here's the thing you're running into with both Matthew and Luke is these were written Jesus died approximately 38, sometime around
33
33 AD, give or take. The Gospels were probably, the first complete Gospels were probably written down sometime after 60 AD. Now, certainly 30 years, especially if we assume at least some of the apostles were relatively young, it's not unreasonable that they would have still been around.
plausibly.
And also, realistically, a lot of scholars think that the Gospels existed as oral traditions before they were written down.
In which case, then there's some fallibility and
Yeah.
consistency.
Yeah.
Particularly the case with Luke, which is the one that we're talking about with the bloodline of Jeconiah, which it's thought that Luke he was supposed to have been a student of one of the apostles, which lends additional credibility just because, okay, a very old man told Luke a bunch of stories, he wrote them all down.
And then gave him a lightsaber.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
But the other thing being, Luke historians think probably combined a couple of historical accounts that existed at the time to try to create a cohesive narrative. There are here's the thing. There's a lot of biblical literalists, and I'm about to annoy to the high heavens.
I love when literalists get annoyed.
But the reality of it is that there are notable, irreconcilable differences between the four Gospels' account of Jesus' life, and for that matter, in particular tonight's discussion, his birth. As someone who's not a hardcore literalist, for me it's a real simple solution of you're dealing with 4 or more eyewitness testimonies, or even second-hand testimonies. And the reality is, if you ask 2 people to remember the same event, you're going to get 2 different versions of the event.
Especially 30 years later.
Yeah.
There were all red fish in that basket. No, they were all blue.
Well, and a lot of the differences are that simple. It's like, okay, did he say, and, I say unto you, blessed are the meek, or did he say the meek are blessed? It's not a big... There are much bigger differences, but a lot of the differences are wording, changes in wording, changes in... He said the same things, but the order is a little bit different, none of which is particularly meaningful. There's bigger questions like how, at Jesus' death, okay, how many people were still hanging around when he finally died? For that matter, when the tomb was opened, who went and found out that he wasn't there anymore?
You're reminding me of a very, very, very interesting joke regarding the wording and how just a slight interpretation can change the whole meaning. May I?
Go
Just
ahead.
to add some levity.
Yeah, this is not supposed to be super serious, so go ahead.
Awesome. Okay. Tell me whether or not the actual quote of the line, I think it was either St. Peter or St. John, who rode in upon a donkey and then was stoned from the animal.
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Well, it was something like, I think it was, maybe even wasn't
But
Paul.
St. Peter wasn't stoned to death. He was crucified upside down.
No, I didn't say to death. I'm saying there were a solid object thrown at said individual to eject them from said animal. Now, I think it might have even been Jesus. Now, the wording is this. We say that Jesus was stoned off his donkey, not stoned off his ass.
Wasn't Jesus. Jesus did ride in on a donkey, but palm leaves were thrown down. And not just to get him off of the animal, but in praise.
I'm here. So in
But
other words, they
one of the
laid weed.
apostles.
So they laid weed at his feet. There you go.
Well, it's always the one interpretation. The Old Testament says that homosexuals are to be stoned. Doesn't mean execute them, it means get them high.
Damn right. Actually, you want to I'll even go
That's
one further with
not
the rewording.
linguistically accurate,
Maybe
but
not necessarily get
it's a
them
better
high, but hold them high. In which case, then it gets interpreted to get them high.
Blessed are the Greek. What? Tastes like blessed are the Greek.
Yeah, how much sacramental wine was in that goblet?
Though, in fairness, as they often did, Monty Python got quite a lot right in the life of Brian.
They did.
They were Cambridge educated as well as comedians. They were smart people.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why it's even funnier. Is it's so much of their stuff is really on target.
Yep.
Yep, especially that bunny.
Yeah, actually it was.
You mean the murderous bunny was real?
Well, no, but what it's based on, a lot of medieval churches had stained glass depicting various vices.
Oh boy, are you going to tell me that there is a tiny little white rabbit with blood on its face?
No, but a small white rabbit chasing off a group of knights is a traditional depiction of the vice of cowardice. What?
What would you rather?
It's certainly
do?
not a virtue.
Well, I can argue for the concept of vice. When a person is cowardly, they are self-indulgent. Would you rather A, take up sword and face dragon that has 9 heads? It's probably going to turn you into nothing but a meat-packed little turd in about 8 hours after eating you. Or would you rather sit down, have a beer, and a crust of bread? I'm going to run away and hit up the pub and see what kind of bread they got today. Hopefully something with...
It's the
Yeah, but-
within its stomach.
But dragons only ever want to play people in houses.
I can run that.
You would.
Houses and housewives.
But to bring ourselves back to topic, the other thing I want to talk about before we get into the actual nativity story is the birth of John the Baptist.
Was this before or after he lost his head?
Before, obviously.
Oh, okay.
But if you go to Luke 1:5, there was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias, of the course of Abiah, and his wife was of the daughters of Aaron. Her name was Elizabeth. They were both righteous before God, walking in the commandments and the ordinances, and they had no child because Elizabeth was barren. And they were both old, or to quote more precisely, were both stricken in years. Now, according to the fact he was of the course of Abias, while he was burning incense in the temple, he's visited by an angel,
Special incense.
which is Luke 1:11, which tells him that he is to have a child. He is to have a child, which would be John the Baptist, who is, of course, an important figure in history, given the fact that while there is some debate over whether Jesus Christ existed, there's not a whole lot of debate that John the Baptist existed. But at any rate, Zacharias is actually struck dumb because he doesn't believe the angel but the reason I bring this up is if you guys go back to last year's Christmas episode where I lay out the case for December 25th being the actual birth of Jesus, the Feast of Abias is why. Because he would have been told that he was to have John the Baptist during the Feast of Abias, which puts it in September. September plus 9 months would give you the birth of John the Baptist. The Bible does say that Mary is told that she's to have her child Jesus 3 months into the birth, into the pregnancy with John the Baptist, which puts you 3 months in. Would put the Annunciation at March 25th. 9 months from March 25th is December 25th. Which leads to one argument for the case. Now, there's a whole bunch of wiggle room there in the fact that the feast in question takes place over the course of a month.
Right.
So, or at least the date can move back and forth in a month, especially because it's the Jewish calendar versus the Julian calendar, which is lunar versus solar. And also differences in calendars is also why, for example, Orthodox Christians celebrate Christmas Eve on January 6th.
Right.
I had a Orthodox manager once upon a time who used to jokingly make fun of other Christians for celebrating fake Christmas.
I call it Zombie Jesus Day.
No, that's Easter.
Oh yeah, that too.
Jesus was not a zombie. If you were going to make a case that he was any kind of undead, he'd be a lich.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a lich.
Okay. Yeah, but how many people that don't play D&D know what a lich is?
Adventure Time had a lich, I believe.
All right.
Just not portrayed as anything other than some type of evil. There is such a thing as a lawful good lich.
Are you a good lich or a bad lich?
Thank you. I
Granted-
was so gonna thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Granted, the reality is liches were largely invented by Dungeons and Dragons.
Damn right. Now, granted, a lot of what you have just said, Kevin, made me bite my tongue mostly because of all the puns that were rising. So many. So many. From the incense that was burned that allowed him to see an angel to it probably being dipped in angel dust, which struck him dumb.
Somebody needs to be slapped.
Keep going.
Should I keep going?
No.
No, I'm not marginalizing any particular belief structure one way or the other. If anything, I am attempting to add some semblance of levity towards a rather serious subject now.
Which is why I haven't slapped you.
Yes. Now, all things considered, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
considering birth dates one way or the other and how they tend to be arbitrary, depending on who it is that's writing the book, who it is that's reading the book, and who it is that's attempting to lead a crusade because of said book, that's not on Audible. Or is it?
I'm quite certain the Bible's on Audible.
Oh, dear gods.
Yeah, there's got to be some version.
If
of
it isn't,
that's
there's a million other free audio versions of it on the internet.
Yes, probably read by me. Now, yes, I'd make the Bible interesting. First off, the entire
When you
beginning.
write to the right sections, the Bible is very interesting.
Oh, yes.
Incest, murder, demons, devils.
It's a Game of Thrones. I'm telling you, watch the damn series. No, actually, what was ironic, and the first thing that popped into my head was when you began to read that passage. I'm here thinking, this is sounding more and more like a limerick. When you first started
Let's not go there.
Okay. But
biblical limericks.
aren't
So-
you glad I came back after a week?
So back on point.
Back on point, yes.
So skipping ahead a bit, because again, we're going to be here forever if I read the entire set of both Gospels. Another thing I want to bring up would be Luke chapter 1, which would be 28. Because this addresses a sticking point I have with a lot of people's jokes about the birth of Jesus, which is saying that Mary was raped.
That isn't a joke. People tend to do that because they're looking for something bad in everything.
I was trying to give them some degree of charity because here, let's clear this out. And we'll come back after this to another point about the birthday of Christ. But so in Luke 1:28, and the angel came unto her and said, "Hail, thou art highly favored, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women." And when she saw him, she was troubled at his saying, and cast her mind in a matter of salutation that this should be. And the angel said, "Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with the Lord. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Jesus. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and Lord God shall give unto him the throne of his father David." So the angel shows up, explains everything that's going on, and Mary says, "I am the Lord's handmaiden." She knew what was happening. She had everything explained to her. She did give consent.
Yeah. I mean, the only remote plausibility that you're going to have anybody kind of say is to say, oh, she gave consent after the fact. Yeah, but, I mean, even then, no, she was not raped. She was not raped. Okay? Yeah. We're going to go by the story.
God's also all powerful. If she had said no, I'm pretty sure even if it had already happened, he could have undone it.
True. I mean, if there's any remote plausibility, okay, atheist hand aside, non-Christian hand aside, okay, God existed and could choose. We are his playthings. We are his creation. If he says it, his will be done. Therefore, if he says you're preggers, whether you like it or not. And it's not a question of rape. It's a question of I put you on this earth and I could take you out. And it doesn't matter a thing to me because I'll make another one look just like you. And the other one will be far more grateful that I gave them a child during a time when most people were dying during childbirth. Others weren't able to have kids. And the one reason why people existed back then was to pop out children.
The Bible says be fruitful and multiply.
Because you want to know what? The population's kind of thin here, and we got some damn buildings that we got to put up. These walls of Jericho ain't going to build themselves.
Now, the other thing I wanted to point out here, because it came up in the quotes about the birth of John the Baptist, is the Bible says that all this is taking place during the reign of Herod.
Oh, boy.
For those of you who are playing the home game, that means Jesus was not born in 0 AD. He wasn't even born in 1 AD.
There was no AD.
Even if you translate it into the modern calendar, he wasn't born then for a very simple reason. Herod died in 4 BCE. For those of you who are wondering, because of this, among other things, because of this very fact, historians now generally use BCE, meaning before current era, and CE, current era, instead of BC being before Christ, and AD being Anno Domini in the year, meaning in the year of our Lord.
Right. Yeah, he died during the reign of Claudius.
Yep. So, and it's important because the Bible also talks about how Herod ordered that the firstborn sons in the area of Bethlehem be killed, which doesn't work if he's already dead.
No, it's a little hard to.
There can be a decree after a person has died, a posthumous decree to be executed. It
True.
doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
People don't always follow through with it.
True.
Because really, what are you going to do if they don't?
Well, no, back then they kind of believed that people would come back and beat you over the head with a scepter.
Well, one question people raise here as well is, why didn't anybody record all of these firstborn children, all these innocent babies being murdered? One, I've been told it was thousands of children. The area of Bethlehem wasn't that big. It may not even existed as it would later. It may not have even been called Bethlehem at the time. You're not talking about a whole lot of people dying. You're not talking about thousands. It's not nearly that then or now. Not nearly that heavily populated an area. Two, and this is a common mistake people make and it's an obvious one, at least to me. Remember, first-born sons. The oldest son. Probably not, most of them wouldn't have been babies. Although specifically, actually no, I'm sorry, in this case it's all the children under 2 years of age.
Yeah, because that was
Yeah.
the plague
Right.
of Egypt that was like the first.
I'm confusing the two. It was children under 2 years of age. But even still, of the male children under 2 years of age, in a relatively small geographic region, isn't that many children.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
If you made it past 2, you deserve the frickin' party.
A fair number of them, I'm very sorry to say, in that time period, a fair number of those children under 2 years of age probably died before Herod's men ever got to them, just by virtue of infant mortality rates that far back were abysmal.
Indeed. You end up getting born in that particular region, you're already predate screwed. And if there's any kind of advocacy I can kind of throw out in that particular story, it's that, most of the control of any particular geographic region was by the local militia that was conscripted by said emperor or ruler of the time. In which case then, it would have been just a quick close ranks, figure out how many kids there are, that's it. Hasta lasagna. It would have been done in like 2 hours. And they couldn't necessarily, have that large of a dominion force within a region anyway. So it had to be small.
So the other thing worth pointing out here is God covered his bases, because not only does he tell Mary she's going to have a child, he sends an angel to Joseph in his sleep.
Oh yeah, tell him when he's
to
sleeping.
say-
Don't tell him when he's awake. Whatever you do.
Say, look, she's a virgin. She's going to have a kid. Deal with it.
I can imagine. He would be at his workbench making a table. All of a sudden, an angel shows up and says, "Yeah, by the way, the Lord? Yeah, he knocked up your wife. Okay, bye." Wait, what? It had to have been the ultimate shock to him, because what? In your dreams, it's a hell of a lot easier to accept something than when you're wide awake with a hammer.
Yeah.
Well, plus it's the ultimate. Later on, it's got to be the ultimate. Stepfather syndrome when the kid starts pulling the "you're not my real dad" card.
Oh dear gods. Oh, that poor man. No wonder he got sent to a grave early.
Lo and behold, one of the non-Christian sources on Jesus is Jewish. It's the Babylonian Talmud. So there's a period of time in Jesus' life where the wise men show up. They're mentioned in Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. Now Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king. Behold, there came wise men of the east to Jerusalem. The 3 wise men, sometimes wrongly called the 3 kings.
3 wise men were Melchior, Balthasar, and Gaspar.
Nope, because here's the thing. There came wise men from the east to Jerusalem.
And then you said
saying,
3 wise men.
Where is he, born king of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and we have come to worship him. This is what troubles Herod and, of course, Jerusalem in general, because this is a rather big deal, especially given Jerusalem's under the reign of the Romans at the time.
Yeah, what did you see? This line of massive amounts of wise guys show up. I can imagine that. You know what? I'm gonna run with that pun. I'm gonna run with that pun.
It's like the wedding scene from
horde.
Goodfellas.
Yeah, it's a horde of wise guys that all show up. They'll be like, "All right, where is he? I know he's around here somewhere.
Where's the kid?
Yeah, where's the kid? All right, we got enough boost here to give the kid. Come on, we got our envelopes.
We got some. Yeah, we got the envelopes.
We got the envelopes. Where's he at?" And of course, Herod in Italian is gonna be like,
Give him to me.
I'll take him.
I'll
Don't
take,
worry about it.
I'll take care of it.
Don't worry about it.
You'll also notice that in Matthew, he's born in Bethlehem, and then the Magi show up. The details in terms of the manger and the story we all know is actually more the book of Luke. And it came in those days the decree of Caesar Augustus that all should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was the governor of Syria, and they all went to be taxed in their own city. And Joseph also went from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, being of the royal lineage of David, to be taxed. He brought his fiancée, because they weren't actually married yet, Mary, who was very pregnant. And this is the story most of us think of. And that they wrapped her in swaddling cloths, laid him in a manger, because there was no more room for them in the inn, which would be Luke 1:7, or 2:7, excuse me. And the shepherds in the field and 2:8, and there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were sore afraid. And tells them, I bring you good news, great joy shall be to the people. Christ has been born. Now, this is another common thing people say, is he couldn't have been born in December. They're shepherds in the field. I just read that.
It's the desert.
Yes!
Yeah, I remember that argument.
It's the frickin' now. Granted, haven't been out that way in particular. Okay, the nights can get pretty damn chilly.
True.
Okay, we're talking frost on the frickin' sand, chilly, but no. And now I have something. There was something here that actually confused
But any
me.
desert usually gets pretty cold in the winter.
Yeah, actually, it depends on whether or not it's surrounded
Yeah.
by mountains and you get the mountain shadow
Yeah.
effect, in which case then there's no heat retained by the sand. That
Yeah.
being said, here's what's confusing me.
Mhm.
The concept of taxes, in particular, in this thing.
Yeah.
They're saying that Joe Boy decided that in order to be able to, was it avoid the tax in
No,
Bethlehem?
to pay the tax.
To pay the tax.
Because according to Luke, he had to go back to his home city to go pay the tax, which was not a thing under the Romans.
So in other words, the IRS wanted his ass to hurry up, head back home, just to put in his tax return.
Basically.
And in the meantime, put his wife up in a stable for what? A write-off?
But you notice, and this is one of the things I know, the story of Matthew doesn't mention the census or the tax, because it gets interpreted either way. Doesn't mention the stables.
Of
Just
course
says,
it doesn't. Who the hell wants to hear about the freaking IRS in Bethlehem? I mean, come on. That would have made the story boring, or even more boring, depending on how you look at it. But I have to find it funny that the IRS decided to come after Joseph, so much so that he had to come home and actually have a letter postmarked from his spot to file his tax return.
Yep.
And here's
Brutal, man.
the other kicker, skipping ahead a little. So, images of the if you go to any nativity scene
Yeah.
in the U.S., you've got the shepherd, you got a bunch of animals, and you have the three wise men.
Yeah.
So, problems with the scene. One, neither Luke nor Matthew gives the number of wise men.
Okay.
Just says wise men came.
Yeah, because you want to know, if you got three wise guys hanging out with you, you ain't going to ask how many there are. They'll be like, it's not your damn business.
The reason people typically think of three is 3 gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Yeah.
But legends say there were anywhere between 3 and thousands of them showing up.
So in other words, an Italian wedding.
Here's the other.
Or christening, hey.
Here's the other thing with that, though. They don't show up. The verse here, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing to make the point. It talks about the shepherds showing up.
Yeah.
It doesn't mention the wise men.
Of course, because you want to know what the wise guys probably were like. You know what? Don't say we were here. We were not here.
No. It does bring up the wise men visiting, but it's later. Depending on interpretation, depending on which one you read, it was anywhere from a month to a year after the birth that they actually showed up.
They
It's
showed
starting
up
to
for the
sound-
birthday party.
You want to know enough? It sounded more and more like a testimony. I don't know. I was there that day. Maybe I was there a year later. I don't really know.
Which leads to
I want my lawyer.
which would be another interpretation, is this is just, oh yeah, Jesus was born. I was there.
Yep, I was there.
It could
when
be there. You know, and I guarantee you the stories were awesome. You had, and you know what? I know the names of the 3 wise men. I know the names of the 3 wise men. It's Joey, okay? You've got Ray, and you got Bobby, okay? You got Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta, and Robert and De Niro, okay? There's your 3 wise guys right
3
there.
wise guys.
That'd make
Can you imagine that? If somebody says how many of you are there, and Pesci will be like, don't worry about it. I got you a gold pinky ring, so you got your gold. You got frankincense, and you know what? There you go. Have some weed. Have some jabubi there. And I don't know what myrrh would be. What's a wise guy equivalent of myrrh? Oh, wait, no, it's oregano.
It's oregano.
There you go.
No.
Have some oregano.
No. The wise guy version of myrrh is nitroglycerin. Because remember your Monty Python, myrrh is a bomb.
So it's a car bomb.
Yeah, it's car bomb.
They offered to take
car bombs.
they offered to take somebody out.
We don't know what you're talking about.
Boom. We solved that little problem for you there, Jesus. Yeah, don't worry about it.
But
That guy, he won't be talking anymore.
We don't talk about that guy.
Matthew 1:11 is when they actually show up to the house, or 2:11, excuse me.
According
And
to
when-
testimony.
And when they came to the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they approached, they opened their treasures and presented unto him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream, dreams come up again,
Again.
that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country by another way. If anybody is wondering, their own country would be Persia, which is modern-day Iran.
Those guys.
And because of this warning and because of the angel showing up to Joseph, all together now, in a dream,
In a dream.
warns them to take the child to Egypt
No, we got to get him out of here.
because of Herod killing the firstborn sons. So they run night, depart into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoke of Lord by the prophet, saying, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." Herod, seeing that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and all the coasts thereof, from 2 years and under.
It's
yeah.
it's the De Niro solution in Al Capone.
Yeah,
The
pretty
Untouchables.
much.
I want them dead. I want that house burnt to the ground.
But you'll notice if you look at the Luke chapter, it just it doesn't bring all this up.
No.
The next time it brings it up is Jesus is 12 and going to the temple.
That's because nothing happened. You don't know none.
But it's an important thing, and it's the point I'm getting at. It's like 2 different versions that don't line up. I mean,
Nah.
Yeah. They skipped over the part where Jesus trained under Ra's al Ghul and
well, that's what he was doing. In
came
Egypt.
back to Gotham to set things right.
No. He went out. He went home to Italy. Okay. He hung out there. He met a nice girl.
Sicily, yeah.
Okay.
It's
There
the
too.
Godfather.
It's the Godfather all over again. You don't
Little
know nothing.
Michael Corleone
Yeah.
side trip.
You know, and that's a call to home for Egypt unto me. You know, he got called back home. He took
Yeah.
care of things.
They
But no,
took
not
care of things back home.
make humor aside though. I mean, the whole concept of the nativity and the revelation that, hey, by the way, guess what? Your guy's here, and he's gonna be a problem. So, just letting you know. And by the way, don't kill the wise men, messenger, as it were. To which then Herod, of course, lost his shit, and he decided to have everybody like taken out. Now the irony is that it wasn't too long after that Herod decided to check out and punch his own ticket, or did he get his ticket punched?
I don't know. I, can look that
I
up
think
quick.
didn't he die of a disease?
Yeah, so he got his ticket punched. That being said, I mean,
It was like named for him or something. If
Looking it up because I don't recall
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
I'm remembering most of this from I Claudius, by the way.
Here we go. So yeah, he was a ruthless man, died a miserable death. Doctors actually he died of some sort of disease that for up until relatively recently they weren't sure what. Around 2002, apparently a team of doctors diagnosed him and say that he died of chronic kidney disease, complicated by a very uncomfortable state of maggot-infested gangrene. And this is just for our male listeners out there. Gangrene of the genitals.
oh, his Luke was done dirty. Maron.
If you want to talk about okay, if
I don't want to talk about that.
No,
well,
that's
no, my
a
point
pretty
being,
bad
and I don't
death.
want to go into great detail for obvious reasons. I'm a guy
please
too.
do.
But if you want to talk about something that was a curse by God,
There,
that'd be a good contender.
That's seriously that's biblical. You want to know what? That reminds me of one of my favorite threats to somebody that ever annoys me, bothers me, and one I'm gonna use the next time we run our game. Okay, if you ever do that again, what I'm gonna do to you is gonna be biblical. Yes, and now I'm gonna be thinking about the ultimate, case of, I guess you could call it maggot-infested leprosy that even Christ couldn't cure. Maron.
Granted, he was an infant even by the time that Herod died, so he wouldn't have been around. And
He can resurrect the
arguably-
dead.
Yes, but would he resurrect the man who just murdered a bunch of children in a vain attempt to kill Christ?
Hey, to be Christ-like, forgive him.
Busy with other details.
There you go.
But that's the thing, and that's basically the story. And there's a bunch of interesting things here, I think. Like, what exactly was the Star of Bethlehem? Now, if you're
Lady
talking,
Gaga. You're welcome.
if you're talking about what the shepherds saw, it's very clearly an angel. It says that was an angel. The angel spoke to them. It would be the angel Gabriel, who's also the angel that showed up to tell Zechariah that he was to have a kid and to talk to Mary and have it. And oh, by the way, Mary, you're going to have a congratulations. It's a boy.
So
it's the
it's
Son
Gabe.
of God. Yes, but it's not so clear. It's just the Star of Bethlehem. When you're talking about the wise men.
Right.
So what were they following? There are actually a couple of possibilities.
The gaslight from the sewage treatment plant, Grace.
Now, at the time period, let me look up the exact year. The comet, Halley's Comet, would have passed over the area of Bethlehem during the reign of King Herod, near the end when Jesus likely would have been born. Now, of course, anyone who knows a little bit about astrology or about various superstitions about comets, they're seen as enormous portents, signs of the birth of kings, end of nations.
People wearing white sneakers, snipping their nuts off, and meeting people behind the comet.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
But, it shows up every 75 years. It would have come through. It may very well have been what they were following. Especially given another detail. The wise men, this technical term for what the wise men were, is magi. They weren't kings. They were priests, astrologers, and magicians in the courts of the Persians.
They have big ass beards.
Yeah, they were priests of the religion known as Zoroastrianism.
Zoroastrianism. Zoroaster, as I like
Yes.
to call them. Zoroasters.
So yes, they are exactly the sort of people that would have put a great deal of importance on the appearance of a comet.
That's probably the last time they shaved was the last time there was a comet in the sky. And back then, without all the light pollution, there wasn't that really that much of a time difference between the two. You'd be like, oh, I just saw a shooting star. Where's my razor? Or dagger? Or anathema? Or whatever the heck it is this day.
There is another theory,
Oh,
which also fits the right time period,
okay.
which would have been. Actually, there's a couple of theories. So Halley's comet was visible 12 BCE.
Mm-hmm.
Another object, possibly comet or nova, was seen by the Chinese and Korean stargazers around 5 BC.
Which,
Puts it right in the right time period, the traditional time period.
yeah, but would have been in the visible sky over Judea at the time.
It would have probably passed through the area. There are another possibility that was suggested by Kepler. Is that there was, basically 1614, Johannes Kepler determined that a series of 3 conjunctions of the planets Jupiter and Saturn occurred in 7 BC. And he argued that connection would have created a supernova. And he said that would have been the star of Bethlehem. Modern calculation, so there's a gap of nearly a degree, approximately twice the diameter of the moon, between the planets, so these conjunctions were not quite so visually impressive.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Kepler. He's a smart guy. They had a telescope named after him. Interesting fellow.
And more importantly, almanacs that have been found from ancient Babylon covering the period don't indicate that the conjunction was seen with any special importance.
I wouldn't trust an almanac from Babylon. They think that people with lions for bodies and human heads walked around.
Another
wings.
possibility that's been suggested is it was a supernova.
If it was a supernova and it would have been visible from our night sky, it probably would have killed us.
No, supernovas do actually cause a visible change in light. There are actually writings of ancient Chinese and other astronomers that do record supernovas.
I would posit it was maybe some sort of stellar collision with a comet that caused it, but an actual supernova, something within our visual sky range, and actually have enough sustainability for a couple of days.
We can see thousands of light years away.
But for a couple of days, that kind of bright light sustaining.
But it may have been a single flash of bright light in the area that made them go there. Or for that matter, there's also the simpler solution that it may have been, they looked at their astrological charts and said, Mercury is in the 9th house, the king of the Jews has been born, or something.
That's what happens when you burn too much myrrh. You see these things and you think it, okay, oh crap, one of our ashes fell on the map. Where is it falling? Oh, it fell in the area of Judea. That's where we're going to refill our weed. There it is.
The other thing that's funny is the Magi. Zoroastrianism is an interesting religion in its own right. And we can come back to that because I think that's worth a little bit of chat about. But the Magi in particular were terrifying figures to everybody else in the ancient world.
Of course they did. They had big fuck off beards. Would you want to mess with somebody with a beard that looks like Gandalf?
But they were also supposed to be necromancers and, summoning evil spirits. They were the evil... the other magicians, other astrologers, other people in the same business as theirs didn't want nothing to do with those guys. And these are the guys that showed up to give gifts to Jesus.
In other words, they were the wise guys.
So the wise guy thing I was going to say was totally...
Yeah, it's not that far off.
Totally
go.
Right there.
I'm telling you, man. Bobby and Joey and Ray. All 3 of them. Forget about it.
Jay Leno did that as a skit one time where he did the
3 good fellas showing up.
The 3 wise guys
Oh, there you go.
showing up at the birth.
I can imagine.
Good heavens.
Actually, the fact that I can imagine is
It was
scary
pretty
all
funny.
in of
It was
itself.
pretty funny.
So we're coming up at the end of the first hour. For those of you who are just tuning in or otherwise didn't hear, our very wonderful and gracious station manager has decided to give us a second hour this week. So I think now is an excellent time to give out the phone number for calls. 609-807-2492. 609-807-2492. Feel free to call in. I know somebody tried to reach out to us at the beginning of the show. Maybe that was an accident.
Maybe it was a wise guy.
Maybe that was one of the wise guys. Maybe that was, maybe they realized, oh, wait, they're in the middle of an ad and decided to hold off. Either way, feel free to call in now.
Yep. You see, that only works with me. Only I can pull that off. You will call in now. Yeah,
Because
right.
Aaron's in the chat.
Right? Oh, it never fails. But no, I mean, there's something else here. Okay, we're talking about Christmas, and we're talking about the wise guys and all the stuff that they decided to bring along. We're talking about the power and the scary and all that, and the gifts that they brought. I'm suddenly reminded of several other types of intrinsic items that were brought forth to light within the scriptures, and magical properties that were given to such, and reliquaries that apparently hold. Not to mention an Ark of the Covenant.
Yes, the Ark.
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole bunch of sacred relics.
Are they still around, though? Spear of Destiny. It's right next to the Pick of Destiny.
Which spear is it, though? There's actually 4 different spears that are claimed by various people to be the Spear of Destiny.
Well, that's just it. You got the one that pierced Christ's side.
Oh, no, all 4 of them are supposed to be that spear.
Of course.
Correction. I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. There are 4 spears and a sword.
Oh, and a sword.
Yeah.
Was the sword called Excalibur?
No, the sword would be Joyous, the sword of Charlemagne. But according to legend, the sword of Charlemagne was forged from the Spear of Destiny.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. That was
Although the
exactly
Spear of Destiny does show up in some Arthurian stories as well.
Of course it does, as well as the Holy Grail.
But in terms of the Ark of the Covenant, there is a church in Africa that claims to have the Ark.
And one of these days we will gaze upon it.
Well, that's just it. They keep it in a sequestered room, and only the priests can go in there, and only at very specific times. They won't let anybody else in to even see it, let alone test it.
What's to hide? We already know what's written on it. They already know what's written on it.
Well, the problem here is that
Get your face melted off.
the Ark is supposed to be kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, the only people that are supposed to be able to be able to touch it are the tribe of Levi, and the tribe of Levi is a lost tribe of Judea.
We can pass as a tribe of Levi. All I gotta do is just put on my blue jeans. You put on your blue jeans. Boom. We're able to go there. I got my Levi. You got your Levi. We're good to go.
Okay, so it's the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church
Mm-hmm.
that claims to have the Ark of the Covenant or Tabat in Exum, AXUM. It is currently kept under guard in a treasury near the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion. Replicas of the Axum Tabat are kept in every Ethiopian Orthodox Tawahedo church, each with its own dedication to a particular saint. And most popular of these include Mary, George, and Michael.
I'm not gonna go there.
I
wanted.
My brain already just went there.
You know I wanted to. Thou shalt not Whamageddon after the fall. Okay? But, that being said,
Armageddon's over, you can do it.
Yeah.
thou shalt not. That's the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not.
No, the
Anyways.
11th commandment would be love thy neighbor as thyself. Jesus gave 2 more commandments. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Or no, excuse me. 11 is love God, and the 12th is love thy neighbor. Or I may have that backwards. But the 11th and 12th commandments are to love God and love each other.
Isn't that the first one?
No, the first one is I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Well, you're supposed to love your God regardless.
But Jesus said, these are the 2 commandments. This is what you need to worry about. And it's be decent to each other, love God.
Those are the 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's be faithful and honorable to thy provider of thy nookie, and keep thy religion to thyself.
That was the 3rd one.
Ah, yes, 3rd one. Thank you.
The 2nd one was the first.
Or the simpler version of the love thy neighbor, which is don't be a dick.
Yes, don't be a dick. Actually, you know what? If anything, that's the one primary commandment of Satanism. Don't be a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Some
Seriously.
variation of it is the primary commandment of every religion.
Yeah. Don't be a douchebag.
Do not unto another with that which you would find hateful if it was done unto you, which is the Jewish version of the golden rule.
Yeah. No argument there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, back to the ark,
Yeah.
as it were. Okay. Wow, I just turned Bostonian.
Well, I will
there.
say this, and it's one thing I at least find interesting. So the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is one of the oldest surviving denominations of Christianity.
Okay. Of course, it's fairly close by to where it started, relatively.
Basically, the two oldest surviving denominations of Christianity, despite some of the outlandish claims of others, is Ethiopian Orthodoxy and Egyptian Orthodoxy, also known as Coptic.
Right.
They both started in a pretty similar region, Ethiopia and Egypt, about the same time, and it's so close together, nobody's sure which came first.
There you go.
And no, because there are particularly Baptists that believe this. Let's clear this up right now. Baptists are not the original form of Christianity by a long shot.
Thank goodness.
Like most other Protestant denominations, they're a product of they've come since the Protestant Reformation.
Thank you, Marty Luther.
Neither is the Catholic Church the oldest denomination.
Nope.
And
Catholic came around much later.
not much later, but it came around later.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the Catholic Church acknowledges that Coptics are older than them.
Yeah, Catholics we don't got time to argue. We're busy, praying.
The other
What we
side
do.
of which being that, realistically speaking, in fairness, Catholic, Orthodox, etc., all basically formulated through the first couple centuries. It wasn't until the great divide, which is what created Catholicism and Orthodoxy as two separate things, was until 1000 AD.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, which is why the word Catholic translates to universal,
Yeah.
because they saw it's like, no, this is just Christianity, and the various forms of Orthodoxy are very similar to Catholicism. The main difference being where the split came in is the Bishop of Rome, aka the Pope.
Yeah. You want to know what the Catholic mentality is more than anything else? You don't believe us? Screw you. You're going to hell. Anyways.
Which isn't the case anymore.
I know, not anymore. We got to do some more recruitment, for God's sakes. We're losing followers left and right.
Which
That's the
leads to
mentality they got.
Yeah, and we know why they're losing followers.
Yeah, we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
Now we know why I'm a Satanist. But
and why I'm not a Catholic.
well, there you go. But every single faith and denomination all have their in particular focused relics that they focus upon. Okay, obviously Judaism has the Ark of the Covenant. Christianity has the Spear of Destiny and the Holy Grail.
Funny enough, the Holy Grail not so much.
Well, that's because they figure it doesn't exist anymore.
And then
It's
that's
lost.
So
Oh,
here
There's no tangible.
wasn't that
holding.
it was never actually mentioned in any of the
Scripture?
Well, there's-
scripture or anything.
there's the Holy Chalice, which would be the cup that Jesus raised up with wine and said, "This is my blood."
Bang. That's it. It's the only mention of it.
And that was probably seen as somewhat important by early Christians,
Yeah.
but there's really no record of that or the Holy Grail in general till 1,000 years after the life of Christ.
Probably held it in the same regard as, this was Christ's pillow. He used it when he slept before the crucifixion.
Well, the story is interesting, so I think it's worth bringing up, or at least
Yeah.
I find it interesting. The very first appearance of the Grail is in the story of Parsifal from Crittenden Troyes, the story Parsifal, the story of the Grail,
Mm-hmm. There you
which
go.
would be late 12th century.
So the 1100s. Enough said.
Right around the time that they were revamping and revising the Arthurian legends and
Yeah.
Yep.
What kind of add to it at that point?
romanticizing them.
Now, here's a question.
Well,
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Tangible artifacts, okay? Grail, unfortunately, it's not tangible outside of Scripture. Okay? What we have currently.
It's not even tangible in Scripture.
Yeah,
There's more
even
there I
there,
wanted to say.
But you have the Ark, and supposedly it exists in this church in Ethiopia.
or any one of a couple of other places.
Or
that
any one,
supposedly
yeah,
is.
because nobody will let us
yeah.
actually in to see it. Okay, you've got the Longinus spear,
All four
Okay.
of them.
all 4 of them, but
Five,
again,
possibly.
tangible.
Yep.
Okay,
Veil of Veronica.
the Veil of Veronica. Is that tangible? Do they actually have the?
I don't know if they know where it is, but that is one of them.
Yeah. Okay, you've got
The Shroud of Turin,
the Shroud of Turin,
which is probably a hoax.
yes, there's been much to prove that it was a hoax.
But there is some legitimate debate to be had there, because the thing
Debate.
you run into with the Shroud is, yes, carbon dating dates the Shroud to the 14th century.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is, both from what we could find on the Shroud and from records of the Shroud, it was burned at one point in its history, and being subjected to fire messes with carbon dating. I am certainly by no means saying that the Shroud is real. I personally am of the opinion that it's a forgery. But the dating isn't conclusive. What I find more conclusive is people popularly say there's no way to have recreated the technique without laying it on somebody. That's not true. They've actually
Agreed.
successfully recreated the image of the Shroud using artistic techniques and materials available in that period of
Exactly.
history.
Yeah.
Now,
That, to me, is much more conclusive.
agreed.
That isn't to say that there may not be and for that matter, for the record, the Roman Catholic Church, which currently holds the Shroud, denies that it's the actual burial cloth of Christ.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's
there may
just
be
it.
a burial
burial shroud.
burial shroud out there. I particularly liked what's his name, Jim Butcher's take on it, which was, yeah, it's a hoax because Hades, the Greek god of the underworld, absconded with the actual shroud to keep it hidden for safekeeping.
Okay. No other reason behind that?
Well, he basically, in the books, Hades collects powerful
Okay.
relics,
Understood.
weapons.
I gotcha.
So he has the shroud, he has the Holy Grail, he has the Spear of Longinus,
Moses' staff.
yeah, possibly. Although actually, if you want a staff with some juice, not Moses' staff, Aaron's staff,
Ooh. Do tell.
because when you watch Prince of Egypt, for example, which is a great movie, it's Moses performing all these wonders. It's God performing all these wonders through Moses. Throwing his staff down, and the staff becomes a serpent and devours the serpents of Pharaoh's priests, turning the waters to blood and all of that. If you read Exodus, mostly it's not Moses. It's Aaron, his brother. It's his brother who's actually doing the miracles, because basically Moses gets stage fright. In fairness, there's actually some textual evidence that Moses had a stutter.
That could be interesting. The Pharaoh, let my people go.
But everybody
Not as
thinks
intimidating.
of Moses doing all these things. And a lot of the staff to snake and a number of the other ones were actually done by they were all done by God, to be clear, from a Christian or Jewish perspective. But it was Aaron's staff that did these things.
Now, do they have an actual physical staff that is being claimed to be said staff?
Not that I know of, although I've heard at least one or two stories that the actual staff is in the ark.
Oh, gosh.
They can take basically the ark. They put a number of important things in the ark: a collection of manna, the food that God fed the Israelites during their exodus through the desert, the staff of Aaron, and of course the remains of the original tablets.
Right, which Moses smashed after he took one look at the
Yeah.
debauchery. Now, what other actual artifacts exist?
Well, there's two. Two of my favorite. Not one, but 2 foreskins of Jesus are held by the Roman Catholic Church.
You want to know what? I can understand why. I could tell you how. I could tell you how. You had a moil, all right? He was getting ready to do it and said, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm too nervous. Crap, I just screwed up because I didn't want to really do any damage, so I only took off a little bit of it. There's 1 schmeckel. And then, you want to know what? You got a moil with a little bit more balls. Pun not intended. Okay? that actually finishes the job right. Now you got two schmeckles. That's how you got two foreskins of Christ out there in freaking in Rome. Enough said.
Then here's one that you don't hear about so much.
The crown of thorns.
Yes,
Oh wow! I actually pulled that one out of my ass.
but in fact, there's a reliquary in the British Museum that supposedly contains a single thorn from the crown. Was made in the 1390s by French Prince Jean-Duc de Berry, who is documented as receiving several thorns from Charles V and VI, his brother and nephews.
Well, that's yeah.
The Catholic Encyclopedia in 1908 reported 2 holy thorns were venerated, the one at St. Michael's Church in Ghent, and the other at Stonyhurst Church, both professing to be the thorn given by Mary Queen of Scots to Thomas Percy, Earl of Northumberland.
Gave him one of the thorns off of Christ's crown. Nice.
And there's a whole bunch of other places thorns are supposed to be. And then another very common one that I'm surprised you hadn't thought of already would be pieces of the true cross.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that one.
Enough to make a forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, enough said. Well, if you want to talk about bits and pieces from the crucifix itself, or not the crucifix, but rather the surrounding the crucifixion, you know, you got at least one of the crucifixion nails is supposedly within the spear of Longinus.
It's one of the 4 spears that maybe the spear of Longinus has a nail worked into it. That is, yes, it's thought to have been that's one of the 3 nails.
The one that I think is being held in Prague.
I believe you're correct.
Yes, that one has that. The actual, they said that if it's not the spear of that pierced Christ's side, then it is definitely at least the spear held by Saint Maurice, because the actual silver sleeve that's underneath the gold one does have that inscription, and it's been dated to be back during the time of Saint Maurice and that particular Roman king that he served under before his forces were decimated and he was martyred.
Yeah.
See, I know my biblical history.
To be precise to what you're talking about, and you are correct, is the Holy Lance of the German Imperial Regalia in the Hofburg Palace in Vienna.
Ah.
So nails venerated as being the nails of the crucifixion. Surprisingly, there's more than 3. There's even more than 4, and I'll get to the 4th thing in a minute.
Well, Christ was a heavy dude.
But the Basilica of Santa Croce and
Croce.
Croce and Salam in Rome.
Yes, yes.
The Holy Lance that we just mentioned, the Iron Crown of Lombardy, in the Cathedral of Monza, the Treasury of the Cathedral of the Trier Cathedral, Bamberg Cathedral, in the form of a bridle, in the apse of the Cathedral of Milan, in the form of bridle, in the Cathedral Treasury of Carpentras, in the monastery of Saint Nicolo, Arena in Catania, and the Cathedral of Col di Val di Elsa in Siena.
You gotta love the.
Yeah, it's a few more than 3 nails.
Yeah. You know what? If anything, it is something to be said about it being famous whenever there is a. If you want your city to become a holy site, all you have to do is simply say, oh, yeah, this particular holy relic is here. So now you got a pilgrimage coming.
Yep.
That's all.
Well,
it was popular back then, I'm
what
sure.
you run into here, what I find interesting is, well, there technically should only be 3 nails, one for each hand and one for the feet, at least in traditional depictions. There is a legend about a 4th nail. Do you know the story of the 4th nail?
I think I've heard it about the gypsies.
About the Romani.
Yeah.
So there's a Romani, to use the proper term, or what people traditionally think of as gypsies, story. And from what research I've done, and I'm by no means an expert, but other folklorists that I've read that have done more research than I have, this is a legitimate Romani legend. It's not just something that the rest of us made up about the Romani. That when Christ was being crucified, the Roman centurions went to a blacksmith to have him make the nails. But the blacksmith knew what was going down and absolutely refused to do it. He went out to another found another blacksmith who was newer to the area, And they asked him to do it. And he's like, okay. And as he's forging the nails, this voice cries out, no, no, do not do this. Do you not know what is to become of us? We are to pierce the Son of Man. So he refused to do it. So eventually, after trying a number of blacksmiths, they found a Romani blacksmith who was new to the area, was just passing through, didn't know the politics, wasn't interested in the politics. It's like, okay, I'll make the nails. So he made the nails. The voice came up again, but again, he was like, this doesn't concern me, I'm not Jewish. He made them, but in an act of mercy, he holds back one of the nails. Or in some versions of the story, a Romani boy steals one of the 4 nails. Which would have basically 1 nail for each foot instead of through both feet. And because of this, the legend goes that Jesus says that the Romani people are exempt from the commandment against theft, because by that act of stealing, they lessened his suffering.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's an interesting take, and I've seen writers do things with the 3 nails. You know, case in point, previously mentioned Jim Butcher. Each nail is worked into a sword. The swords are now the swords of the cross and will kill anything.
Nice.
One of the 3 swords, in fact, being Excalibur. Yeah, it's Excalibur, the sword of Roland, and the sword of the Imperial Sword of Japan are the 3 swords with nails worked into it in his books.
Now, according to history, or at least recorded history is the best way to put it, one of the nails was put into the armor of Charlemagne, into his chest plate, in order to be able to, I guess you could say, deify his capabilities. You have the one that's within the Longinus spear, and I forget where the 3rd nail went.
Again, still got the page open.
It's
There's a
amazing,
whole list of places for that nail to be.
Okay, so we got the crucifix bits. What other holy relics are there?
This is what you're talking about. Actually, it might have been his helmet, not his breastplate.
I thought it was his breastplate.
But yeah, it's supposed to. Oh, in fact, 2 relics are to exist. One in the form of a bridle, and they're claimed to be the bridle of Constantine.
It was
and
Constantine,
the
not
of the Cathedral of Man, and the other in the cathedral. Yeah, basically 2 different ones, and then yes, it was also supposed to have been his helmet. But other relics.
Any other interesting body parts of saints?
Oh, there's piles of the head of John the Baptist is supposed to still be floating around there somewhere.
Floating around where?
Various churches somewhere lost in
Somebody
history.
keeps on saying that this is the head of John the Baptist.
Yeah,
What's being kept? How about this? Okay, I hate singularizing it,
yeah.
but what holy relics are currently chilling out in Rome that we know of?
Not sure.
That we know of. That's a key word, because not everybody's allowed within the basilica. Not really everybody's allowed through those doors.
So apparently, Roman Catholic traditions holds that the head on display at San Silvestro Capite in Rome is that of John the Baptist, discovered for the 2nd time as maintained by Pope Benedict XVI in August 2012.
Okay.
You ain't got no body.
Muslims claim that the head was interned in the once called Basilica of St. John the Baptist in Damascus.
Well, yeah.
John Paul II visited the tomb of John the Baptist at the Anisaid Mosque during his visit to Syria in April 2001. Muslims believe that Jesus Christ will return in this location during the Second Coming. In the Middle Ages, the Knights of Templar are supposed to have had the head. Several records from the Inquisition in the early 14th century mention some form of veneration of a disembodied head among the Templars.
That's understandable. All right, so other than the head, what else we got?
Let's see. Trying to run through all the various.
Research on the fly. It's awesome.
The one that always interested me is, and I've found a few references here and there, but you ever think of the possibility of relics in reverse? Things that have been imbued with power by contact with Satan.
Oh yes, there's tons of those. My goodness, there was talk of one of the fingernails of not fingernails, one of the feathers that fell off of Lucifer's wing when he fell to Earth. Well, not Earth, but when he was cast out.
Yeah, actually, he did get cast to Earth. Believe it or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's varying stories. Some said he went
But if you go to
directly
the-
to hell, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Others said that he had to do a stopover and hit the Earth first.
Or you want an interesting possibility?
Yeah.
I can think of 30 that were in direct contact with the one confirmed case of satanic possession in history.
Is this a single rosary?
No,
Okay.
30 silver denarii.
Oh, yes.
The coins
Yeah.
given to Judas Iscariot.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't in Satanism, though.
But no, the Bible says that Judas was actually possessed by Satan himself.
Makes sense.
Which leads to a whole bunch of speculation about Satan's role in the crucifixion, whether he was trying to stop it, whether he was trying to cause it.
I'm pretty sure he would have tried to stop it.
That's the usual thought, but there are people that think that he was actually trying to
Egg
cause
it on?
Yeah, to cause it, that he wanted to kill. Basically, he saw it as his one chance to kill God.
All right, I'm gonna dispel some crap right now. All right, I'm not the kind of person that would say that Satan is something to be worshipped one way or the other. As far as I'm concerned, no. But here's something: the Morning Star was not stupid.
No, he really wasn't.
Okay, he was the first of the frickin' angels, for God's sakes. He was one of the most powerful. Do you really think God's gonna give somebody with that kind of juice a lack of brains? He's not easily tricked. He's not easily fooled with. You piss him off, he's going to burn you in more ways than one. So do people think that he got tricked into causing the forgiveness of all sin? Or at least original sin? Yeah. No.
No, Lucifer's
I guarantee
many
you,
things.
he
Stupid is
knew.
not
Yeah,
one of them.
I guarantee he knew what would happen if Christ got crucified. He was probably doing everything he could to stop it. Hence the temptation of the man.
Except, of course, the question of the Bible does say Judas was possessed by Satan.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear on the subject.
And that's where my argument of the fact that you want to know what Satan, not Satan, but Lucifer and God are not on opposing sides. They work in tandem with one another, specifically so that they could sort out those that deserve to go up and those that deserve to go down. If there is any kind of theological structure to it all, that would be the roles. Because you know what? If anything, Lucy is probably the kind of person that would not person, but type of entity that would be like, you know what? I know my role. I'd much rather rule down here than kneel up there, and I'm going to be happy as heck being down here. So if you want to just keep on keeping them coming down to me, I'll be happy with that too. I might push the borders every now and again, but you know what? For the most part, you do you, I'll do me, and if you need a little bit of a hand, let me know. I'll hook you up.
I still don't agree insofar as I'm of the opinion God uses Satan. I'm not of the opinion that Satan is willingly used. He thinks he's a rebel. He
He
well,
is a rebel.
Lucifer-
That's why he got kicked out.
Yeah, but that in terms of working with, he still thinks he's a rebel. I don't think he thinks he's working with God. Because the thing is, Lucifer is highly intelligent, but he's also very proud.
He also knows that God could wipe him out with a thought.
Which is why he hasn't invaded heaven for a second time.
He also knows better than to bring the raft down. He saw what happened when his kids showed up at his gates.
Which is a fun part of Catholic tradition about
Yeah.
the crucifixion. It's not actually strictly speaking, in the Bible. For those of you who don't know, he's talking about what's famously called the harrowing of hell.
Yep.
So the Bible says Jesus was crucified and then rose again on the third day.
Guess where
Well,
he was
what
during
he
those
doing
3
the third-
days.
3 days. In Catholic tradition, he went down to hell and tore shit up.
Yep. I think that's exactly what somebody with the kind of divine power would do. You go down to the pit and be like, all right, here's what's going to happen. You know everybody that got sent down here just because they weren't baptized? Yeah, that ain't happening no more. And you know all these nice guys here that didn't really harm nobody? They're coming upstairs with me. If you got a problem with that, talk to my dad.
Well, in a lot of theology, he did go to part of hell, but
He knocked on the gates and the walls of this.
well, that's just it. Did he do that, or did he get? Because there's also traditionally a specific part of hell that isn't where souls are tortured, but it was a holding cell.
Yeah, limbo, the first circle.
Not yeah, that's a much later idea than what I'm talking about. Basically, there's an area of hell known as Sheol or Gehenna, which would be where Jews were held between basically the fall of Adam and the birth and the resurrection of Christ. Christ went down there, kicked open the gates, and let those Jews that were being held in prison but weren't being tortured because they were faithful to God. They just couldn't worship a Messiah who hadn't been born yet.
And there you go.
And brought them to heaven. I personally do like the image of, it's like, no, he went down there, he threw down the gates of hell, made a big, who the boss, and then brought up a whole lot of souls that shouldn't have been, or maybe they shouldn't have been down there at all. Although I don't, being a big believer in God's mercy, I'm not a big fan of that idea. Maybe he went down to free people if you see hell as a giant prison, maybe he went down to give parole to those whose time was up.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, if anything, and here's an interesting bit. I forget what bit of apocryphal scripture it is written, but it was said that when the first drop of Christ's blood hit the ground on the hills of Golgotha, a massive earthquake shook through hell.
If memory serves, there was an earthquake when the crucifixion happened.
Yes.
Here too, and the skies were darkened because.
But
it was kind of a big deal.
And that's just it. If an earthquake could happen in a place where they wanted the crucifixion to happen, for instance, hell, it would mean that hell is part of God's kingdom as well, regardless of who's currently managing the place. Oh,
I have a quick shout out I want to do.
Oh, we like shout outs. Who are we giving a shout out to?
I don't know if she's still in chat, but our good friend Virgo Triad just appeared in chat to say Happy New Year. My friends just wanted to stop by and tell you I love you all. Virgo, if you're still listening, God bless. Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas or whatever your holiday of choice is.
Hey, Virgo. How you doing?
I was just listening again to some videos on her channel earlier today. I also, she's taking some time off at the moment for personal reasons. I'll could fill you guys in off air if you want, but I don't want to go. Personal business is personal business. But she is saying she's going to go back to it sometime in the new year. So, if you guys remember, I talked the last time we had more time about that scam with the Christian counselors.
Oh God!
I put in Virgo at that mess. It's like,
God.
you like exposing scams. Here's what to pay some attention to.
There you go.
Nice.
So that's awesome that she gave us a little bit of shout. Shoot.
No, Virgo is we love Virgo.
Yeah.
We love all of our guests, but Virgo has always been very awesome to us.
Exactly. So yeah, earthquake in hell.
Yeah. Well, I was also just taking a moment to reflect. It's like, it's almost New Year's,
dude.
Next time we're all here, it's gonna be in 2019.
I've actually, believe it or not, you ready for this? I have been using a quote from you that you gave about me in reference to the new year.
Hopefully, I'm flattered.
You will be. I've realized that I actually speak fate and didn't even realize it. Okay? At the end of 2017, I said, I'm hoping that 2018 goes well and that there's nothing really to worry about. I didn't realize that in fate language, that basically means, hey, 2018, mine's bigger.
Yep. Bring it.
Yep. Come at me, bro. And guess what? 2018 has been, without a doubt, the most tragic and painful year for me to date.
Let's hope that's not true of 2019.
Yeah. You want to? I'm gonna be like, with the coming of 2019. I'm gonna look, dude. Don't hurt me. Please take it easy. I understand 2018 kind of left a little bit of a wreck. Let's talk about this. All right.
I'll say also
Yeah,
it's worth mentioning.
I'm right there with you, actually.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for a lot of people.
It's been
for
a
some
bumpy
reason.
year. It's starting to look up. I mean, I just got a new job. Things are going pretty good for me right now.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I start tomorrow. Everybody wish me luck.
Good luck.
Look.
Yeah. Well, I also meant the listening audience, but thank you to everyone in the studio as well. We will still be doing the show. Don't worry about that. I have a little bit of a backlog. For anyone who cares, the Empty Faces series is still ongoing. I've got now two boxes to do videos for because I never did box 3 because I got so caught up with Thanksgiving and Christmas, and box 4 has just shown up. But there is a whole bunch of things coming in the works for next year.
Oh boy.
Not the least of which, I've just had a chat with our good friends Patrick Thomas and John French about having them on the show together.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
And I finally have a book that has a short story from both of them that I can lend you guys.
Oh,
Awesome.
cool.
Yes, I got the book Camelot 13, which is a collection of 13 stories of the Camelot and Knights Round Table, which was edited by John and Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Christmas present to me from my sister. Very good book. Thoroughly enjoying it.
Better than socks.
Oh, I got a lot of great stuff. I got, including a whole bunch of new magic tricks.
You know what I got? I got the mullet of hats. I got a trophy. And I got a hammer, Swiss Army hammer.
Nice.
That's what I got for Christmas.
Yeah, the hammer seems practical.
Yeah, you want to know what? When I held it, I immediately said to myself, I'm changing my name to Maxwell Edison. For those of us that do not know the Beatles that well, are you familiar with the song?
Maxwell
off the top of
Silver
my head,
Hammer.
no.
Yeah, I know it.
Maxwell Edison studying in medicine. Teacher won't leave him alone. It's basically a song about a kid with a silver hammer murdering everybody.
Yeah.
Cute.
The
It's a
chorus
really,
is
really interesting Beatles song.
yes. The chorus is ding ding. Maxwell's silver hammer came down upon his head. Maxwell's silver hammer made sure that he was dead.
Hey, Gene, I think we have a caller. I think cats are calling, complaining about them being murdered. Ruthless. It's a joke, Gene. I'm making fun.
Don't you mean that I'm being catcalled?
No, the cats are calling and saying that you're stop murdering them.
Would
Stop murdering that feline.
Well, that's what you get for being catty.
I have claws. I will use them. Remember, I have a knife. Don't tempt me. No.
Actually, it's worth also mentioning, folks, we are still trying to put together a convention for sometime next year.
Yes.
I haven't gotten around to changing the name yet, so the name you can find it under on Facebook is Wrath of the Khan. Or not
Revenge of the
Revenge of
Cons.
the Khan. Which
However.
is clearly the Star Wars fan in me coming out.
And
But-
meanwhile, the Star Trek fan and the rest of everybody
Yeah.
in the studio is to be the Wrathicons.
No, and I do want to change it back because I like it's what we all agreed to, and it's still fun.
Yes.
But folks, go join that if you're at all interested. It'll be somewhere in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. Be a lot of fun. Sometime probably towards summer or fall.
Fall, summer, winter, spring. You know,
We don't
some
have
point.
much more specifics because the first thing we need for more specifics is an idea of how many people are interested, so we can figure out what we need to work with in terms of money.
Yeah, not for nothing. The thing is, if we figure out how many people are actually interested in having a con of this nature, which will have panelists and presenters and entertainment
Yeah.
from all walks of geekdom, paranormal, or
Oh,
one
yeah.
way or the other, if you want that, you know what? We can make it happen.
mean,
I'll
it's-
call my buddy Joey. We'll make it happen. Don't worry
Aside from
about
the
it.
three of us, I've already had paranormal investigators and an author or two
Mm-hmm.
step up and say, "Hey, if you guys do this, I want in."
There you go. I mean, come on. Us three alone should be enough to sell it, but, you know, we've actually got famous people that want to come out.
Yeah.
So, you know, you let us know. You want it to happen, we'll make it happen. I guarantee you, you won't regret it.
And the reality is, we do have someone who's willing to invest, so it's not necessarily going to be yet another attempt at crowdfunding from us. But to get investment, we need dollar numbers, and to get dollar numbers, we need at least an estimate of how many people.
Yeah. So let us know if you're interested. As a matter of fact, you want to know what? I am going to put forth a lovely little idea of a remote kind of challenge here. if we manage to actually get up at least about 200 people interested in having this kind of thing, I will do the Hot Ones Wing Challenge on air.
What is that?
Oh, he doesn't know.
Oh, he doesn't know. Basically, you have 12 hot wings, all of increasing heat, all from
Lord.
various types of hot sauce, from about 1100 Scoville, which is basically Tabasco sauce, all the way up to over 2 million Scoville units.
Yeah, the ghost pepper.
And no, it's beyond ghost pepper. And the thing is that during this time while I'm eating these things, you guys can try and have me answer questions, or you want to know what audience? You guys try and ask me questions, and I will try to answer them as best as I can. So if you ever want to see me in obnoxiously powerful pain, I'm pretty damn sure it'd be worth it.
Which is something else that's worth mentioning, just in terms of the fact we're doing a little bit of show bookkeeping. We are currently at 470 subscribers.
Yes, let's make it 500.
Yes, we'd
At
love to
least.
make it that 500 or ideally more.
You know what? If we
But
get
we
up
do
to
want
500,
to say,
I'll do it.
so he will do the Hot Wings Challenge live on air if we can get 30 more subscribers.
Yes.
YouTube.com/C/Paranormal Encyclopedia, or just look up Paranormal Encyclopedia on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. You'll help out the show. It doesn't cost you a penny.
And it'll make me suffer.
And then if we get 30 more people, you get to see him in agony.
You know what? If we get 100, I'll make Kevin do it too.
No, you won't. That's
Come
a hard
on.
no. No.
Yeah,
200 more people?
not happening.
If we end
Get
up
us
with
to
600
1,000 and we'll talk.
If we get to 1,000, I will
We'll
cook the
talk.
wings myself.
Okay.
And I make a mean hot wing. Seriously.
I won't go very far because I can't stand hot food.
Oh, that's what milk is for. How about you, Brian? How are you with hot food?
Oh God, no! I'm a wimp. I can't. I don't eat regular hot wings. Like
Yeah, that's
regular
usually my
buffalo.
I
thing.
don't
at the
eat
diner.
wings for a start.
Yeah.
Dude, you can get the drummies.
I'll eat regular like fried chicken wings, but
Yeah.
not like the buffalo.
We'll get you
hot.
the bone. We'll get you the boneless ones, Kevin. Yeah, buffalo hot. You know what the thing is that
We
they
can
say
discuss
that
it.
yeah,
We'll do
it's-
something
It's
special for
something special, seriously. But I will do that hot wings bit
30
specifically.
subscribers. That's all we need.
All we need is 30 subscribers. I'll hook you up with some very interesting entertainment. But you want to know what, though? If we get those 30, I would like you guys to have some questions to throw. So you know what? You can hit me up at my personal email, which I will give. My professional
Yeah,
email.
do that and email it and message it to me on Facebook so I can add it to the description. as well.
Certainly.
Brian, you should do that with you. I'm sure you have a professional email. Say yes if you don't, because you can just make one later.
Yeah.
I make one later.
No, so yes, you have a professional email.
So my
And
professional.
we can put those in the description with mine.
So my professional email is baronvvoltage@yahoo.com. That's Bravo Alpha Romeo Oscar November Victor Victor Oscar Lima Tango Alpha Golf Echo @yahoo.com. As you can tell, I have been in the military for a while and I know my phonetics. But yeah, shoot me an email with your questions. I guarantee you, I'll be able to at least answer them. And if we get more than 30,
Paranormal Encyclopedia @gmail.
there you go. You see,
That would
yours
be
is
mine.
easy.
Yep.
But you know what? If you give me those questions and we get those 30, I will answer those questions with Kevin asking them while I'm eating these
I
hot
think Brian
wings.
and I would have to trade off on asking them just for a fact.
Because I guarantee, you want to know what? It'd be kind of interesting to see what kind of questions would come through all of us to field. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What kind of questions the people can really come up with? Because that would be interesting.
But we've got about a little over 15 minutes left in our second hour.
Yeah.
So I do want to give out the phone number again in case anybody wants to get in on this lunacy.
Yes.
609-807-2492, 609-807-2492.
And it's always fun whenever me and Kevin go banter back and forth.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And we managed to stay reasonably. I managed to herd the cats somewhat on topic
Somewhat.
through the first hour.
Mm,
but
yep.
unless I was going to sit and read verse by verse through Luke and Matthew,
Please don't.
it would have been hard to go 2 hours. And if you want that, there are audiobooks of the Bible on YouTube even.
You know what? If we get 100 subscribers, I will let you record you doing the whole Begat torrent, and then I will listen to it while eating the hot wings.
There we go. Now there would be true torture.
That would be torture.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, it'd be torture for you and me, but the torture for him.
Yes.
And I will. There we go. I'll just open the numbers and just start the begats, and I won't stop until you finish the wings.
You have any idea how fast I can eat when I'm hungry? Dear goddess. Now, here's an interesting bit. You were talking about
Yeah, but when you get up to
relics.
the really hot ones,
Mm-hmm. Now, back kind of on topic, talking about hurting the cats. Actually, I do think there is a evil relic. Well, I guess you could call it subjectively evil, depending on what your viewpoint is. I actually would love to have this myself. There is signed copies of the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, I'm sure.
yeah,
The father of Satanism. Come on.
not especially evil.
No, not evil at all. But it is a relic.
He was
of-
kind of an asshole. But
He was allowed to be. But you want to know what, though? Here's the thing. Being an asshole is subjective. Because if you think about it, the tenets of Satanism are this.
I know.
Do for you. Okay? Anybody gets in your way, you're entitled to stop them. Don't be ignorant. Don't push your ignorance on others. And if
Don't
you
harm children.
do never harm the innocent, including animals, too.
Yep.
Which is like, a lot of people will be like, well, don't they sacrifice goats? No.
No, that would be devil worship, not Satanism.
Yeah. Devil worship different.
And for that matter, the other religion that gets that rap would be the Afro-Caribbean religion, Santeria Voodoo.
Yes.
And here's the thing, and this is important, I think, on the nature of animal sacrifice. Yes, there are a number of religions throughout the world that practiced animal sacrifice, including Judaism.
Oh, yeah. Much.
In normal religions, because there are extreme lunatic sects in everything.
Mm-hmm.
But in most normal religions, including the Afro-Caribbean religions
Right.
and the original African, ones that came before them,
Right.
great emphasis is placed on not causing undue suffering in the sacrifice.
Because there's plausibility that whatever it is that could possibly be sacrificed is currently a vessel for one of the deities,
Then
as well as ourselves.
the other explanation I've seen, although that also makes a good degree of sense, was simply that even if that isn't the case, the suffering of the animal taints the offering to the god.
Yes.
One thing that is common between, and here's another thing I think it's worth commenting about, is, Judaism does have specific ritual sacrifice. But people get so up in arms about this idea of sacrifice. Animal sacrifice is a ritualistic killing of an animal for a religious purpose.
Right.
So very common, very similar, if slightly different in purpose, would be halal and kosher, where it's to fulfill religious dietary requirements. Specific prayers have to be said. The animal has to be killed in a very specific way. And one common thread in most forms of animal sacrifice and kosher, and I believe halal as well, is you have to drain the blood out.
Yes.
In Afro-Caribbean religions, the blood is left as an offering to the god, to the Loa, to the spirits. In Judaism, it doesn't necessarily have that quality, I don't believe.
Not familiar with the Judaism aspect, but I know what you
But
mean
it
when you're
is
talking about the
it
law,
is
yeah.
still a rule of their, because the Bible says that we're not allowed to consume blood.
Oh, but it's so tasty. I like my steak rare, well, medium rare. But I mean, there's even a relic, which I don't even know if you could consider a relic, but probably a holy site, or not holy site, an unholy site within Satanism.
Which one?
The LaVey House, the original, the first church of Satan, quote unquote.
So I'd be more inclined to say the castle that Crowley rented on Loch Ness. In terms of actual accursed sites,
A cursed site is different as
Now,
opposed to
actual-
a place of pilgrimage.
but in terms of an actual unholy site as opposed to marketing gimmicks, because
Unholy as opposed to Satanist is different.
satanic, but because Crowley's religious beliefs were complicated to say the least, but he did openly admit to summoning demons.
Of course. Well, you want to know what? If you got the phone call for the man upstairs, you sure as hell probably got the cell phone of a couple of guys downstairs, too.
We really need to research and do. I need to do a little more research, but we really need to do an episode on Crowley. He is just such a fascinating human being.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Like, for example, one of his honeymoons he spent in the Great Pyramid.
Why not?
Yeah,
If
I'm
you're
not
Crowley,
saying-
you're going to.
There was a very public magical feud he had with the head of, I want to say, the Golden Dawn when he got kicked out, where they sent vampires and demons after each other.
He's allowed to. He's Crowley.
Right, that's the thing about Crowley is he's a fascinating figure, to me at least, because one, he's extremely dishonest, but he's so honest about the fact that he's dishonest. He's one of those people, P.T. Barnum's another example of somebody who said, "Hi, my name is Aleister Crowley. I'm going to bullshit you now. Feed you a line of bullshit, but tell you it's a line of bullshit, but do it so so convincingly people believed him."
So, in other words, he's an actor. You're welcome.
Some of it he believed. That's where it was like,
So, he's a method actor.
yeah, pretty much. Parts of it he believed, parts of it he didn't. I
There you
mean,
go.
he was a drug addict. He wrote about the fact he was a drug. I mean, this
You're
isn't
not
a secret. He has
hurting
books
my
on the
viewpoint
subject.
here on him being
I
a
know, but
method
for our
actor.
audience. And who all of the sex the man had. He was. I'll put it like this for folks who are listening, who are wondering. In my opinion, Crowley's sexual orientation was yes, please.
So, he was Pan.
I'm not even sure that's open enough.
No, that's about as open as you could possibly get.
Well, he was Crowley. Yes, he had sex with men, he had sex with women, he had sex with both. Sex was an important part of his religious practices.
Damn Skippy.
There's the religion he started called Thelema, which sexual magic was an important part of. He actually helped introduce the entire idea of tantric yoga to the West.
Damn right.
Which is the other thing
And
about
God bless him, too.
about the man. As bizarre as he was, as nutty as he wasn't stupid.
There you go.
He was a mountain climber. He was a grand champion chess player.
Okay, so far you've talked about skill and physical prowess. You haven't really touched upon intelligence yet.
Being a good chess player is usually
Intellect.
a grand champion level chess player. You're a pretty smart guy.
That's intellect, not intelligence.
What's the difference?
Intellect is how you use it. One is actually a measure of how much there is.
Which is, it's hard to measure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why they stopped relying on things like the IQ, and
which has never been reliable.
it was never a reliable indication.
I mean, I may not know a lot about much, but what I do know of, I know a lot of.
Yeah. See, that's a common difference.
Yeah. I mean, I know kids that could recite every single damn Pokemon from first generation to current, name its strengths and every single one of its possible freaking attacks, as well as where it could possibly be located and the types of Pokeballs to use.
Right.
But if that's
would
all
say
they know, would you say that they're intelligent?
No,
There you go.
but the ability to actually play chess, well, I would say is generally, especially, again, we're talking about ranked grandmaster level, is more of a sign of the ability to use your brain, not just the ability to memorize.
I would argue that it's mostly a question of recognizing particular patterns and gambits in order to be able to counter. It's like a powerful statistician. You may
Yeah,
say
but
that
that's still, I would say, is a sign of intellect.
it's a sign of intellect, not intelligence.
It's a sign that you can use your brain, not just
True.
that you have a lot of
Agreed.
knowledge. And at the very
Agreed.
least, it's a sign of a lot of knowledge of chess strategy.
True.
Yeah.
And he had familiarity with religion. He had a familiarity with magical practices. He had been a member.
He was a Renaissance
He got
man.
kicked out of a series of occult societies. Well, there is a conspiracy theory that probably isn't true, that he was actually a secret agent for the British government during World War II.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, I find that claim dubious. He was a close friend of and was tapped for information by Ian Fleming during World War II.
Why not?
Specifically, there's the two stories of one. Fleming had the bright idea that it was believed, though it wasn't actually true, that Hitler put a lot of stock in astrology and that he was using astrological charts to plan the war. He wasn't.
No.
Nope. That was more Hess and Himmler.
Yeah.
Himmler, yeah,
But-
especially.
Fleming came up with the idea of getting Crowley to interpret what the German astrologers were telling the brass to do. The other one was that when which was the one is the one who crashed?
That was Hess.
Hess.
Yeah, that when Hess crashed, Fleming wanted to bring Crowley in to help interrogate him because of Hess's own interest in the occult.
I
Yeah.
don't blame him.
In both cases, at least officially speaking, the answer from British intelligence was no.
Yeah, there's
Which is unsurprising given Crowley had a horrible reputation by then.
Yeah.
well,
I mean, Mussolini thought he was too extreme and kicked him out of Italy.
well, that's because Mussolini didn't like anybody else playing with his toys.
Fair.
Benito is just that kind of nut.
But I do want to give out the show has its own specific email as well, which is the Paranormal Encyclopedia Hour at gmail.com. So you can email there with guest suggestions, questions, comments, etc.
Yeah.
And that wraps. We're actually pretty good on time, given we're down to our last 5 minutes.
Fantastic. Would you like me to do my...
Yes. Why don't you do
Yes.
your spiel?
Yes. I get to talk about our second sponsor, which is NordVPN. Folks, I'm going to tell you this right now. A lot of us like to browse the internet. A lot of us don't really like to let anybody know where we've been browsing the internet. And a lot of us come from countries that tend to be somewhat restrictive on where we can get to go on the internet. And we don't want anybody to know. Well, NordVPN actually has military-grade encryption in order to be able to keep those eyes out of your history folder. They allow for varying ways and capabilities to mask where you're logging in from, as well as where you're browsing from and what you're browsing. They provide several different capabilities, several different types of encryption, all to protect you. It'll let you be able to check out websites you normally would not be able to check out if you were living in a country that doesn't let you check those out. They have payments. They have payment plans that are very affordable, and I highly recommend you check it out because you know what? If anybody will look at my history folder, dear God, I'd probably end up in hell. But that being said, you know, it's an incredible service. Take advantage of it. You're not going to regret it. Just check out NordVPN. So says I.
Links in the description.
Yep.
Look at the description. We'll have professional emails up there. We will have the links for both Nord and Audible.
Mm-hmm.
You can also find us on Facebook by looking up the Paranormal Encyclopedia, because there is another more literal Paranormal Encyclopedia on YouTube as well. You want to make sure to put the in there. What?
Hour.
Not on Facebook.
Encyclopedia Hour.
On Facebook, it's just the Paranormal Encyclopedia.
Email address.
I know, but I'm not talking about the email address at the moment.
No, he said the hour.
Yeah, I did say the hour before, but we're on a different topic. And
But yes, check out the Paranormal Encyclopedia on YouTube as well as on Facebook. You'll notice because it has this nice bright red logo with some black lettering to it. And you know what? If you check it out and you suddenly see his ugly mug, his quiet mug, or my hypnotic mug, you'll know it's us.
hypnotically ugly mug.
Hypnotically ugly mug. That's quiet. Kinda. There you go. Just check it out.
But also keep in mind, if you like listening to us ramble for 2 hours, we're still trying to reach the amount we need for that. Please consider donating to our Patreon, patreon.com/demonology, or the GoFundMe, gofundme.com/paranormalencyclopedia.
Yeah.
If you want to work out something else, if you don't want to go through those sites, feel free to email us. We'll be happy to. If you want to give us money, we'll be happy to help you sort out how.
Yeah.
You can also contact it if for booking, if you have a convention of something of your own that you'd like us to speak at.
Yep.
Things of that nature.
And if you have a channel yourself and you'd like either one of us to be able to guest on, we'll be happy to be able to provide our time. Guaranteed.
I mean, we're reaching out to you. I'm working on reaching out to various YouTube channels to try to bring them on the show and hopefully get a little reciprocation. Go on their show, they come on our show. Like, aside from the fact I'm going on Non Sequitur, I've already invited them and they've agreed they're going to come on here at some point. We're still figuring out a date for that.
Fantastic.
Cool.
All right.
But that's going to wrap it up for this week. So, folks, like I said, check out all the links, check out all the information. Make sure to tune in next week, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday night. That'll be the first show of the new year.
Yay.
We'll have to figure out. That'll be January 3rd, to be precise. We'll be here as always on Hamilton Radio. You can hear us on Facebook, YouTube. I believe we're also broadcast, or will in the near future be broadcasting on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Sounds fantastic.
So wherever you can find us everywhere, you're not getting rid of us that easily. But that's gonna do it for tonight. This is Kevin Mears saying good night and God bless.
Brian McKinley saying keep your fangs sharp.
And this is Baron Voltage saying avoid lightning rods, have a good new year, and whatever you do, don't tell the new year that yours is bigger.
And good night, everybody, and Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year. Have a good one.
Oh, and for that matter, if any Orthodox folks are listening, Merry Christmas.
Merry
That'll be
Christmas,
in
indeed.
2 weeks.
And all right.
Okay.